Welcome to Revenge Report. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more. Let's dive in. I didn't tell a damn soul I was coming back. 10 months offshore, working roughneck shifts on a rig in the Gulf, and I just wanted to see Arlo, Texas, with my own eyes before anybody ruined it by trying to make it a thing. No welcome home banner, no fake hugs at the airport. Just me, a rental pickup that reeked of lemon cleaner and old vinyl, and a gut feeling I couldn't shake. My name's Jillian Reeves. I'm 35. Arlo's where I was raised, not in some perfect suburban box my parents called home, but in my granddad's creaky farmhouse where the porch sagged and the coffee was always hot. I turned off the main road just past the Baptist church, tires humming on the old gravel path. The sun was sinking behind the trees, painting everything in that dusty orange light I remembered from 100 summers. Quick note, before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. The porch light was off. That was my first bad sign. Carl W. Reeves didn't believe in wasting electricity, but he sure as hell believed in porch lights after dark. Said it was a sign of respect, a way of saying, this home's still got somebody in it. I knocked once, waited, knocked again, harder. Nothing. No footsteps, no creak of the floorboards. I reached into my wallet and slid out the old silver key he gave me when I turned 14. In case I ever lock myself out. He'd joked. I kept it all these years. Didn't know why, until now. The lock turned easy. Too easy. The house smelled like lemon polish and still air. Not musty, not rotting. Just untouched. Like a showroom version of my childhood. Nothing out of place. Not even a coffee cup in the sink. I stepped out of my boots and walked down the hall, heart punching through my ribs. Granddad? My voice cracked. No answer. I opened the back room, the one he used to call his study. Now it looked like a damn hospital wing. A medical bed, machines humming low, oxygen tubing, a heart monitor. My granddad was lying there, sunken in, skin pale, arms limp at his sides. Alive, but barely. No aid in sight, no clipboard, no water, nothing. I just stood there, staring. That man raised me, drove me to softball practice, taught me how to change a tire and clean a gun. He used to lift me onto his shoulders like I weighed nothing. Now he looked like a pile of bones under thin sheets, and someone had left him to rot. I turned on the lamp, took a deep breath, then walked out to the kitchen to see what the hell had gone wrong. I grabbed a glass from the cabinet, rinsed it out, and filled it with cold water. My hands were shaking. I brought it to the nightstand and set it down beside him. Then I checked the machines one by one. Oxygen steady, heart rate stable, nothing blinking red. But his lips were dry, skin like parchment, and the smell in the room wasn't sweat or sickness. It was neglect. He'd been like this for days. I stepped out of the room, sat down on the couch, and pulled out my phone. No texts, no missed calls. Nothing from my mom, nothing from my dad. Just a calendar reminder about some maintenance back on the rig. I flipped to Facebook, mostly out of habit. Right there at the top, fresh post, time-stamped yesterday. A photo of my mom in a big floppy sun hat, grinning with a margarita in her hand. My dad beside her, shirt unbuttoned, holding a damn coconut drink with a flower in it. Behind them, clear blue water, palm trees, Cabo San Lucas. Caption, finally free. Living life with no regrets. I stared at it like it was written in another language. Free? From what? From him? My thumb hovered over the screen. I read it again. No regrets. My jaw clenched so tight I felt a pop behind my ear. I locked the phone and set it face down on the coffee table. I stood up, walked through the house slowly. My boots echoed too loud. Everything was clean, organized, like it had been scrubbed down and then abandoned. The fridge held a half carton of eggs, old milk, and 2 apples. His favorite cereal was untouched on the top shelf. No dishes in the sink, no trash in the bin. There were still indentations in the couch cushions from his spot, the one he always sat in to watch the news. But no coffee rings on the table, no ash in the tray by the back door where he used to sneak a cigarette when he thought I wasn't looking. It was like someone cleaned out all the living and left the shell behind. I opened his closet. His Sunday jacket was still hanging up, wrinkled, but there. His boots were by the door, laces undone just like always. I felt like I was walking through a museum exhibit of my own childhood, and then something hit me. If they don't show up, you'll know what to do. He'd said that to me once. I was still in high school, pissed off because my parents forgot my birthday. Again. Back then I thought he was just being sentimental. But he said it serious, like a soldier giving orders before battle. I walked back through the kitchen to the old curio cabinet by the wall. It had a little carved angel statue on top, all dusted and polished. I reached behind it, the same spot he used for decades, and there it was, a small brass key tied with blue thread, right in plain sight where no one ever looked. I held it in my hand for a second, heart pounding. I didn't know if I wanted to scream or throw up or kick in the wall, but I didn't do any of that. I just turned around and went back to check on him. He hadn't moved, still breathing, slow and shallow. I sat on the edge of the bed, careful not to jostle the wires. "You knew this would happen, didn't you?" I said quietly. His eyelids fluttered just barely. I reached down and took his hand. Cold, but not gone. That damn Facebook post kept flashing in my head like a neon sign. Living life with no regrets. They'd left him here like an old coat they didn't want anymore. Well, I had regrets. I had plenty. But I also had that key, and I was about to use it. I stood up holding the brass key in my fist so tight it left little half-moons in my palm. I knew exactly where it went. Down the hall, second door on the right. Granddad's office. That door hadn't been opened in years, not even when I came home for holidays. He said the room was for real business only, and apparently nobody in this family had done anything real in a long time. I slipped the key into the lock. It clicked like it had been waiting for me. The smell hit me first, paper, old wood, and the sweet burnt scent of pipe tobacco. He used to sneak a bowl or two late at night when Grandma was alive, thinking no one knew. We all knew. It was dark, just a sliver of light from the hallway hitting the desk. I reached for the pull chain on the lamp. The light buzzed to life, casting gold across the room like it was warming up old ghosts. The desk was still covered in green felt. Piles of mail, stacked neatly, an old flip clock blinking, 12 o'clock. Framed pictures, one of him in uniform, one of me at my high school graduation, and one of Grandma back when her hair was jet black. I dropped to my knees beside the file cabinet. Bottom drawer, back corner. The safe was small, square, and black, the kind people put in hotels or sketchy pawn shops. Nothing fancy, but I knew the code. He'd taught it to me on my 18th birthday, out by the shed. "If anything ever happens," he'd said, "this is yours to open. Not your daddy, not your mama. You." I punched in the numbers, 4 digits. Click. Inside were stacks of folders, medals in velvet boxes, and a worn-out Bible with his name engraved on the front. I pulled everything out one by one, careful not to tear anything. Then I saw the envelope. Thick, yellowed, sealed with red wax. Handwritten across the front in block letters. Last Will and Testament of Carl W. Reeves. Executor, Jillian Reeves. My throat tightened. For a second, I couldn't breathe. I didn't open it. Not yet. I slid it gently back into the folder and held it against my chest like a shield. Then I stood up, walked down the hall, and stepped back into the room where he lay. His eyes were still shut, machines still steady. I placed the envelope beside him on the bed, right where his hand could have touched it if he had the strength. "I've got you," I whispered. He didn't move, didn't need to. I pulled my rig shirt from my duffel, navy blue, stiff from too many washes, with the company patch stitched above the chest pocket. I laid it out across the blanket. Then I reached for my phone and lined up the shot. The envelope, his hand, my shirt. Click. It wasn't for Instagram. It wasn't for pity. It was a record, a damn receipt, a promise burned into pixels. I backed up and looked around. Nothing felt settled, but something inside me clicked into place, like I'd just claimed something no one else had the guts to touch. I picked up the envelope again, held it in one hand while I rested the other lightly on his shoulder. "You picked the right one," I said. He didn't open his eyes, but I swear he exhaled deeper than before. Just once. I tucked the envelope into my bag. Then I turned off the office light, closed the door behind me, and locked it. I had what I needed, and now I knew what I had to do next. I didn't wait for sunrise. The minute that office door clicked shut behind me, I knew staying here meant waiting for someone else to take control, and I wasn't handing this over. Not to my parents, not to some state nurse, not to anyone. I grabbed the canvas duffel from the hallway and started packing fast, room to room. His meds first, pills sorted by color-coded days, some already skipped. That pissed me off all over again. I found his wallet in the kitchen drawer, ID still inside. His insurance card was bent at the corner, the way he always stuffed it in too tight. I tossed it in. Next was the photo off the mantel. Him and Grandma on the dock at Lake Whitney, holding up that catfish like they'd won the damn lottery. I paused for half a second, ran my thumb across the glass, then wrapped it in an old t-shirt. Last thing, his lucky fishing hat, sun-bleached and sweat-stained. I found it hanging on the back porch, exactly where it always hung, like it was waiting for him to pick it up again. I shoved it in the bag. Now came the hard part. The wheelchair was folded behind the closet door. I set it up, locked the wheels, then went back to the room. "All right, Granddad," I said quietly, gripping the bed rails. "We're going." He didn't respond, but his eyelids fluttered just a little. I braced my knees, got my arms under him, and lifted. Jesus, he didn't weigh anything anymore. But it still hurt. My back screamed. My shoulders shook. I got him upright and eased him into the chair, legs hanging loose, head bobbing to the side. I tightened the chest strap like the hospice nurse showed me years ago. The one who came once a week before, apparently, vanishing into thin air. I wheeled him out to the truck and popped the tailgate. Backed up the wheelchair ramp I borrowed once for a busted ankle, never returned. It barely held steady. My hands were trembling by the time I got him strapped into the passenger seat, oxygen tank secured behind him. I slammed the door shut. Engine started on the first try. As soon as I pulled onto the main road, my phone lit up in the cup holder. Unknown number. Then another. And another. 4 voicemails in 2 minutes. By the 5th call, I finally snapped and answered. "What?" Static. Then a voice. My mom's. Too cheerful. "Hi, honey. We just saw you posted something from Arlo. Are you home?" I hung up, threw the phone in the back seat. Halfway down the highway, another sound broke through. A soft rasp from beside me. "Jill?" I nearly jerked the wheel. I glanced over. His head had shifted, eyes barely open, lips cracked. "I'm here," I said quickly. "You're with me now. You're safe." He made a sound, not quite a word, not quite a breath, and then went quiet again. I wiped my face, realized I'd been crying, and didn't even notice. We rolled through Fort Worth after dark, passed under the big green exit signs, and cut northeast. About 45 minutes later, I pulled off a dirt road outside Denton. My best friend Harper's cabin sat back behind a tree line, tucked away and invisible unless you knew where to look. She'd built it with her fiancé before he died in a drilling accident, left it for emergencies. I had the code. The lockbox opened with a thunk. I let us in, lights low, air thick with cedar and clean dust. I parked his chair by the bed and lifted him again, every muscle screaming now. Laid him down slow, tucked the blanket to his chin. He didn't open his eyes, but his hand twitched toward mine. "I got you," I whispered. My back was soaked with sweat, arms shaking like I'd run a damn marathon. I collapsed onto the floor beside the bed just to breathe. My phone buzzed from the duffel, then again, then nonstop. I didn't check it, didn't need to, let them all scream into the void. We were safe now. I sat on the floor until the sweat on my back turned cold. Granddad's chest rose and fell in quiet, steady rhythm. He looked more peaceful than he had back at the house, like even he knew we'd made it out. I stood up, my legs stiff, and tucked the blanket tighter around him, turned the little fan on low, and angled it toward the bed. There was nothing more I could do for him tonight, except make damn sure I knew what I was holding on to. I grabbed my bag from the kitchen table, unzipped the side pocket, and pulled out the envelope. The wax seal cracked under my thumb. I sat at the counter with the overhead light buzzing, heart thumping like I'd stolen something. The first page hit like a punch. Executor, Jillian Reeves. That part I'd seen, but reading it in full, black and white legal language, it felt different, real. I flipped the pages, hands shaking. The terms were simple. If Carl W. Reeves were ever declared unfit to live alone, if he lost the ability to manage daily needs or finances, his listed caretaker, sole executor, and beneficiary was me. No alternate names, no mention of my parents, no siblings listed, not even a backup trustee, just me. My throat clenched up like I'd swallowed gravel. My chest got tight, but it wasn't grief. It was something heavier, bigger. I didn't know how to name it, but it knocked the wind out of me. All those years, I felt like the extra piece in the family. The one they forgot to count at dinner, left off vacation plans, called too independent like it was an insult. And here it was, proof that someone had seen me the whole damn time. The tears came before I could stop them. Not loud or messy, just quiet, stupid streams I wiped with my sleeve. I sat there crying in a dead man's flannel, staring at papers that changed everything. My phone buzzed again. I reached for it, still shaking, and opened the voicemails. First one was from my mom. Her voice pinched and fake sweet. "Jillian, honey, we just want to know what's going on. It's really inappropriate to just take someone without notifying the rest of the family." Next was my dad. "I hope you know this is kidnapping. We're contacting the authorities. You are not in charge." Then more. Guilt, rage, veiled legal threats. They were circling like vultures, and they didn't even try to hide it. I deleted every message. Then I opened the camera roll. The photo, the one I'd taken back at the house, stared back at me. The will, my shirt, his hand, evidence, truth. I clicked over to my texts and opened a new one. Me. "If something happens, check my photos." I hit send to the only person I trusted outside blood, Lex, my rig buddy, the one who pulled me out from under a jam pipe 6 months ago. We always said we'd watch each other's six, no matter what. Didn't matter that she was 2 states away. She'd know what to do. I leaned back in the chair, wiped my eyes again, and looked around the cabin. It smelled like cedar and fresh air. The silence felt solid, like a wall between me and everything waiting outside. Granddad shifted in the bed, just a little, a twitch of his hand. "You're not going back there," I said out loud. My voice echoed in the room. I stood, grabbed a pen off the counter, and wrote his name on the envelope in bold block letters, just like he'd taught me when I was a kid practicing how to label gear. Then I slid it back into my bag, zipped it shut, and set it by the door. Let them come. Let them try. I knew where I stood now. I didn't wait until morning. I pulled out the will again, flipped to the last page, and found the name. Martin L. Becker, attorney at law, Arlo, Texas. I'd heard the name before. He did wills, land disputes, cattle contracts. The kind of lawyer who knew everyone and owed nobody. I called the number listed on the letterhead. It rang twice before a gravelly voice picked up. "Becker." "Mr. Becker, this is Jillian Reeves," I said, standing by the window, staring out at the dark trees. "My grandfather is Carl Reeves. I have his will. I'm listed as executor." There was a pause. "I see. And where is Carl currently?" "With me. Safe. But he's not well." Another pause, longer. "You got proof of what you're saying?" he asked. "I have the original will. I've read it. It's signed and notarized. It names me and only me." His voice dropped half an octave. "All right. You free tomorrow afternoon? 2 o'clock?" "Yes, sir." "Bring the will and everything else you got." He hung up without another word. I slid the phone into my back pocket and got to work. The next hour was nothing but digging. I emptied every file folder I had from Granddad's house. Insurance documents, prescription records, the emergency contact forms where my parents were listed and never showed. I pulled every care schedule printed by the hospice nurse 6 months ago. Notes with no signatures, skipped visits. I took photos of the empty fridge, the dust-free counters, the untouched meds. I even found the discharge paper from the ER visit last year. Needs full-time supervision written in bold. They left him anyway. By the time the sun cracked through the blinds, my phone was lighting up again. "Mom, you've made your point. Let's be adults and talk this through." "Dad, this is elder abuse. You're interfering with medical care. We will take legal action." "Unknown number. You've been reported. Expect a wellness check." I took a deep breath, typed one message, and sent it to all of them. "Me, see you in court." That shut things up for maybe 4 hours. Then came the lawyer talk. Screenshots of legal codes, messages with subject lines like conservatorship violation and unauthorized custody. One even threatened to sue for emotional distress. They'd never changed a diaper, never bathed him, fed him, checked his damn pulse. Now they were suddenly experts in family law? I tossed my phone face down on the table. Granddad stirred in bed, just a soft cough, but it grounded me again. I grabbed a fresh notepad and started organizing everything. I made labeled folders, backups, even printed the photo I'd taken back at the house. By noon, I had enough paperwork to choke a donkey. This wasn't about sentiment anymore. This was war. And I was ready. The air inside the county courthouse smelled like bleach and dust. Cold as hell, too, even though it was 85 outside. I walked through those doors with my head high, steel toes hitting the tile loud enough to echo. I wore my rig jumpsuit, navy, creased down the legs, with my company's patch stitched above the left pocket, Longview Marine Drilling. That suit had oil stains ground into the seams and burn marks on the cuffs. It wasn't a costume, it was a resume. Becker met me at the security checkpoint, briefcase in one hand, coffee in the other. He gave me one nod and said, "Keep your mouth shut unless they talk to you. Let the paper speak first." We stepped into the courtroom together. My parents were already seated on the other side, dressed like they were headed to church and expecting applause. My mom had on this beige blazer that screamed respectability, and my dad was slicked up in a charcoal suit, flipping through a leather portfolio like he even knew what was in it. Next to them sat a man in a tailored navy pinstripe. His watch probably cost more than my truck. Becker leaned over and muttered, "Fancy. Overcompensating." I sat beside him, eyes forward. When the judge walked in, we all stood. Then it began. Their lawyer went first, all smiles and fake concern, calling this an unfortunate misunderstanding. He called me estranged, said I'd isolated my grandfather, accused me of coercion, like I was some con artist who'd rolled into town with a forged will and a sob story. He even said I was dangerously underqualified to care for someone that sick, that I'd kidnapped a vulnerable adult. I didn't flinch. I just stared at the table in front of me and let him talk. Becker waited until he was done. Then he stood, slow and steady, and handed over a thick folder to the clerk. "Your Honor," he said, "this is the original will, signed and notarized. My client is the named executor. These are also photos of the condition in which Mr. Reeves was found. No caregiver, no food, no supervision. These are medical logs showing missed care appointments. And these," he tapped another page, "are signed documents from 2 physicians declaring Mr. Reeves unfit to live alone." The judge skimmed the top pages. His expression didn't change, but he didn't stop Becker either. Then Becker turned to me. "Miss Reeves, when did your grandfather last speak before today?" "This morning," I said. Briefly. "Would he be willing to speak now, in court?" I nodded. "If you let me help him in." The judge allowed it. My parents didn't look so smug when I wheeled Granddad through that door 10 minutes later, oxygen tank rolling behind us. His head was low, but he was awake. I parked the chair in front of the bench. The judge looked over his glasses. "Mr. Reeves, can you state your name?" Granddad swallowed, then rasped, "Carl William Reeves." "Do you know where you are?" His voice was like sandpaper, but it came out strong enough. "Court. And who is this young woman beside you?" He didn't hesitate. "She's the only one who came." You could have heard a pin drop. Becker turned to the bench. "Your Honor, that concludes our presentation." My mom whispered something to their lawyer. He stood and asked for a recess to evaluate the medical condition and testimony. The judge agreed, said he'd review all documentation and issue a formal decision in the coming weeks. But the tone had shifted. Even the bailiff shot me a glance on our way out, that quiet look men give women when they realize she's not bluffing. Outside the courthouse, my parents didn't say a word, just climbed into their luxury SUV and drove off like this whole thing had inconvenienced their day. Becker pulled out a stick of gum and handed me one. "They're rattled," he said. "Don't let up." I nodded, staring down the courthouse steps. One battle down. War wasn't over yet. The courthouse door hadn't even shut behind me before the next wave started. Letters, emails, certified mail in thick envelopes with legal headers. Calls from numbers I didn't recognize. Half were threats. The other half were apologies dipped in poison. The kind that sounds sweet until you read between the lines. "We never meant for it to come to this. Let's handle this like family. You're confused, tired, emotional." They didn't back down. Not for a minute, but neither did I. Becker stayed locked in, calm as ever. "They're throwing darts in the dark," he told me after the second filing. "Noise doesn't win in court. Proof does weeks past." I kept working the cabin like a war room. Documents stacked by the coffee maker, notes taped to the fridge, my laptop always charging. Granddad kept improving, little by little. His color came back. He ate more. He even cracked a joke one afternoon about Becker's suit being tighter than a hog trap. Then the ruling came in the mail, heavy envelope, county seal on the back. I tore it open at the kitchen counter, hands steady for once. Ruling. The court recognizes Jillian Reeves as the lawful executor of the estate and designated caretaker for Carl W. Reeves, effective immediately. Petition for conservatorship filed by Mr. and Mrs. Reeves is hereby rejected. No fluff, no loopholes, just final. I folded the paper, walked into the bedroom, and sat on the edge of the bed. We're going home, I said. Granddad looked up at me, eyes sharper than I'd seen them in months. About damn time. 2 days later, we rolled back up that gravel driveway in Arlo. The porch still sagged. The paint still peeled, but it was ours now. Officially. No one could take it. I pushed him through the front door and straight into the living room. His recliner sat where we left it, facing the old boxy TV. I helped him in, adjusted the lever, and stepped back. He leaned his head against the worn leather and closed his eyes like a soldier returning to base. That night, Mrs. Donnelly from across the street brought over stew and cornbread without asking. Said she just had a feeling. We sat at the table, me, Granddad, her, with mismatched plates and sweat tea rings on the wood. He ate half a bowl before passing out in the chair, snoring like a diesel engine. I carried him to bed, tucked him in, then went back to the kitchen to clean up. That's when my phone lit up. Missed calls, 112, texts, emails, 2 voicemails marked urgent. I let out a short laugh, shook my head, and turned the screen toward Granddad as I stepped into his room. He cracked one eye open. Popular now, huh? I grinned. Apparently, he chuckled, this low, raspy sound that still had some fire in it. I sat on the edge of the bed and pulled the covers higher. They'll be louder before they get quiet, he said, voice drifting. I know. But they will get quiet. I nodded. We didn't say anything else, just sat in the calm of it. For the first time in a long time, it actually felt like home. The next week, the phone calls slowed. Then they stopped. No more emails, no more lawyer posturing. My parents went quiet like someone flipped a switch. I didn't care why, only that it gave us space to breathe. The house didn't fix itself, but I started on what I could. I cleared out the back bedroom, tore up the old carpet that smelled like mold and cat piss, and replaced it with laminate from the hardware store in town. I repainted the kitchen walls, same color, just fresh. Something about that soft yellow made the place feel warm again. Granddad started eating better. Not much, but enough to notice. His skin stopped looking paper thin. His voice got stronger. One night he even asked for hot sauce, which nearly knocked me over. Most afternoons, we sat on the porch together while the sun dipped behind the oaks. He'd talk in short bursts, and I'd just listen. The stories came out in pieces, half memories, half confessions. He told me about the Navy, about Okinawa and some storm that ripped the carrier in half, about how he met Grandma on a train platform in Mississippi and kissed her the same day, how he never wanted to go corporate like my dad, how this house was the only thing he ever really fought to keep. I dug up the patch of yard beside the porch where the grass never grew right. He watched from the wheelchair while I planted tomatoes, green beans, and squash. Said I had Grandma's hands for the dirt, rough but precise. By early June, the green beans were already climbing the fence I rigged from chicken wire. One Saturday morning, I came in from the shed and found him in the kitchen, already up and dressed, sitting at the table with an old cigar box in front of him. He slid it toward me. Been meaning to give you this. I popped the lid, and inside were things so personal, it felt like I was reading someone's mind. A rusted fishing lure, a photo of him in uniform with his buddies, a dried-out sprig of lavender I recognized from Grandma's nightstand, a small coin, Navy Challenge style, engraved with a Latin phrase I couldn't translate. At the bottom was a folded-up piece of lined notebook paper. I opened it carefully. His handwriting was rough but clear. Proud doesn't cover it. That was all it said. I couldn't speak. My throat locked up. He just patted my hand once and rolled himself into the living room like it was nothing. I kept that note in the cigar box, but I carried those words around with me like armor. That night, I made us biscuits and bacon for dinner, poured us both iced tea, and we watched a rerun of The Price is Right like it was the Super Bowl. The next morning, the house was quiet, the kind of quiet that doesn't feel right. I knocked on his door, waited. No sound. I opened it slowly. He was still in bed, face turned toward the window, one arm outside the blanket like he'd just dozed off in the middle of a thought. I stepped closer, laid a hand on his chest. Still. Warm but still. No panic, no gasping or chaos. Just done. Like he'd picked his moment and stuck the landing. I sat beside the bed and didn't cry for a long time. I just held his hand and watched the sun slide through the blinds. When the time was right, I made the calls. Not to my parents, not first. I called Harper, then Lex. Then I opened the box again, touched the words one more time, and whispered back, "Proud doesn't cover it either." A few days after the funeral, I found the second will. It was tucked inside a folded Veterans Affairs envelope at the back of the safe, deeper than where I'd pulled the first one. Different handwriting on the label, same signature at the bottom. This one was dated 2 months before I came back. The house was mine. Full transfer, no conditions. No. The land out by the old cattle fence, 8 acres, mostly brush and cedar, was deeded to a foundation I'd never heard of. I looked it up. A nonprofit that gave scholarships and trade school grants to veterans' kids, blue-collar families, people like us. And at the very back, another letter. Build something better. Don't waste your fire on bitterness. That was all it said. No apology, no backstory, just instructions. I folded it neatly and stuck it in the glove box of my truck. It stayed there from then on, right next to a box of fuses and a wrench I never remembered to take out. Before every long drive, I'd open it, read it once, shut it again. A year later, the house didn't just look different, it felt different. Alive. Clean siding, new gutters, fresh paint on the door, same red as Grandma's lipstick. The back bedroom got turned into a guest suite. We added a second twin bed, donated from a guy Becker knew at the VFW. Some weekends, it was full. Families came in from all over Texas, sleeping close to the hospital, closer to each other. No charge, just a place to rest. People asked why I did it. Reporters, neighbors, even my cousin Jenny, the one who used to make fun of my boots at family barbecues. I always gave the same answer. He showed up for me. I showed up for him. That shut him up every time. I kept the front porch mostly the same. The board still creaked. His boots stayed by the door. The swing got a new chain, but I didn't fix the squeak. He liked that sound. One night, late August, I walked outside just as the sun was setting over the far trees. The grass was cut low, same way he used to keep it. The tomato vines were leaning heavy with fruit. Wind stirred the wind chimes. I pulled out my phone, a dozen missed calls. All numbers I didn't need to answer. I held the screen for a second, then powered it off. Set it face down on the step beside me. The light turned gold across the yard. That quiet, warm kind of light that doesn't last long, but makes everything look like it matters. I leaned back in the swing, let it creak slow under my weight, and watched the sun fall behind the yard he once mowed like it was his damn duty. It was mine now, and I knew exactly what to do with it.